today I'm going to talk about how to keep your sponge cakes moist. I've seen a lot of videos previously where people talk about cake syrup and using cake syrup. If you're using cake syrup to make your sponges last longer, then stop right here. Hi, I'm Nicola from CakeTastic, and I just want to start by saying thank you so much for watching all of my videos. I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel currently, and I just want to thank all of you lovely people out there that have subscribed to my channel so far, watched my videos, commented. If there's anything you want to see, if there's a video you'd like me to create, then please don't hesitate to get in touch and we'll do our best to make that happen. So today I'm going to talk about how to keep your sponge cakes moist. I've seen a lot of videos previously where people talk about cake syrup and using cake syrup. You know, this stuff. It's made with water, boiling water, caster sugar and a flavouring of some sort. So for instance, I've got a small piece of vanilla sponge here. For this cake syrup, you would use equal quantities of caster sugar, boiling water and just the vanilla flavouring just to enhance the flavour of your sponges. And if you're using cake syrup to enhance your flavour, then that's brilliant, go ahead and do it. If you're using cake syrup to make your sponges last longer, then stop right here. I'm going to help you. You don't need to add more sugar into your sponge to make it last longer. You just need to bake it better. And I'm going to share with you a few tips today how I bake to enable you to make your own moist, beautiful sponges. So my first top tip would be to bake low and slow. I bake all of my sponges here at 160 degrees. If you look at cookery books, you know, some of the people that I've always read books of, Delia Smith, Mary Berry, all those big legends, classic legends. If you look through some of their older dated cookbooks, if they've not been reissued, quite often they're baking at 180 degrees, you know, for sponges, maybe things like brownies and things at 200. With the quality of ovens that we have today, that's too hot. All that's going to do is it's going to make the outside edge go really brown really quickly, and that sponge is going to really tense up. And potentially the outside is baking a lot quicker than the inside, so what that ends up doing is it just ends up wrecking your sponge and really making it really tight and just dry, to be honest with you. So I use an oven thermometer. I just got this from my hardware shop. They probably sell it online as well. I just pop that into my oven, I turn my oven on, hook that onto the little bars on my oven, and I only put my sponge batter that I've pre-prepared into the oven when the temperature on my thermometer here, my oven thermometer, reaches 160 degrees. And I do that because although it says 160 degrees and some ovens, particularly in the UK, have got like a little red light, when that red light goes out, your oven is supposed to be at that temperature. I know through using my thermometer and through baking experience that very often that is not the case. You might have one hot spot in your oven. For my oven, it's my back left part of my oven that's my hot spot. And as soon as that gets to 160, the rest of the oven is deemed to be at 160. So the red light goes out and you think, oh great, I can put my cake in. But if you put it in on the right hand side where there's no hot spot, you're putting it in to start the baking process when the oven isn't hot enough. So what's happening is your baking powder's having that lovely chemical reaction, but there's no heat to sustain the rise. So all that happens is you get really dull tasting, dry, sunken cakes most probably where they go in, and just a really unpleasant sponge. So my first top tip is bake low and slow. I bake everything here, all my sponges at 160 degrees. It might mean that I have to bake them for a few minutes longer, but as soon as my timer goes off, I'm looking through the oven door and I'm looking to see whether my cake has risen. Don't be a door hanger constantly. Wait for your oven timer to go off to say that it's reached the baking point, and then get your skewer, pop your skewer into your cake to see whether it's baked. You always know if your cake's cooked because when you poke that skewer or cocktail stick in, when you pull it out, the skewer itself is clean. There's no batter that's stuck to that skewer. Then you know it's perfect. So my first top tip is to bake low and slow. My second top tip is about overmixing. So quite often people will put their butter and their sugar in and they'll mix it, then they'll add their flour and they mix it, then they add their eggs and they'll mix it, and then they get distracted. So they'll pick the phone up, a child comes in, an adult comes in to ask a question. All the time their mixer is constantly going round and round and round and round and round and round. What happens is they overmix their batter, so when it goes into their tin, it goes into the oven, it comes out, it becomes really, like, how can I explain it? Really tough is probably the easiest way to describe it. So if your sponge is tough, if it's dry, then you're definitely overmixing it, so stop. Get your ingredients into your bowl, add it to your bowl, and then mix it until everything is just combined. Do not overmix. Overmixing is the worst thing you can do to your beautiful sponge cake layers. So top tip number 2 is do not overmix, do not get distracted. And my third and final top tip is to make sure all of your ingredients are at room temperature before you start baking. So if your butter or margarine has been in the fridge, get it out. If your milk is in the fridge, get it out. If your eggs are in the fridge, get it out. You don't need to put eggs in the fridge anyway unless you live in a massively hot climate. Here in the UK, our eggs can be left in a dish on the side in the kitchen. Everything needs to be at room temperature. So if your flour is kept in a kitchen cupboard, that needs to be the same temperature as your butter, sugar, milk, etc., your flavouring. Always prepare. To get a really good bake, you need to prepare rather than prepare to fail. Get everything out, pre-weigh everything, have it all in bowls on your work surface. And when it's been out for about an hour, then start to make your cake. So put the butter and the sugar in, add a bit of the egg, add a bit of the flour, then your flavour in and mix it. But don't overmix it, as we said for top tip number 2. So top tip number 3 is room temperature ingredients. That way you'll have a beautiful crumbed sponge that will last for several days, and your family will absolutely love you for it. So my top 3 tips, just to recap: bake low and slow, do not overmix, and room temperature ingredients. Happy baking!